Hello and welcome to our circle and Salve Women. Today, as I mentioned in our last talk, I was going to be discussing defining your circle. And so it's Transparency Day. I'm going to be true to my word and just let myself be in hopes that you are understanding I'm coming from a mother of 5. I've been married to the same man for almost 30 years, totally devoted, anti-alcohol, anti-drug, nothing of the matter where I felt like I had to, put myself in a position where I allowed something else, chemically or whatever it was, to lead the way for me. For me, it's always been, a spiritual gain that I had been going after. And so with this in mind, hopefully you understand that what I discuss with you is coming from that experience of just going cold turkey about life. And really because of that, because of my devotion and doing it naturally and organically, going through the rough rides of life and then going through the smooth rides of life and going through the waves of life, that I was able to really identify what are my layers of my circle. And some of you may say, no, there's just only really 3 layers. Well, then I would beg to differ to say that there could be 4 or more layers in your circle. So let me go ahead and start off with the first one. And I would consider this, or would call this, the core. This is your seed. This is what you are watering, you're planting, you're putting your sunshine in there with hopes that they will flourish, that they will become bigger and better than who you are, and because of your love and devotion for their growth, for their development. And so for me, that would be my husband and my children. Now, you may think, well, your husband's not really something that you would plant and water and put some sunshine on there. He truly is. Or your partner, whoever is your significant other in your relationship, if you are not watering that and that part in your life, your partner, your teammate, right, who is going to be by your side, then you really would consider yourself to be alone because you're thinking to yourself that you're carrying the whole load. So for you to really understand your innermost core, a lot of people think that there's a division between choosing, having to choose between your spouse, your partner, and your children. No, it's one. It is truly a one core, because together, enable for you to grow together, prosper and thrive, and many times survive, you have to hold on to each other and really nurture that development together as one. And so for me, again, and for you, you may say, you may have a partner for life, and then you may not even have any children, but those are the ones that are counting on you, and that you are counting on them, so that together you have a plan, you have a dream, you have a hope, you have an aspiration, that together you're going to be there from the beginning to the end. So when you're talking about your innermost, many people, I believe, make that mistake of thinking that, oh, this has to be involving someone, this person and that person. When you have too many people in a really small core, okay, what you're doing is you're rotting it, and you're causing it to be too consumed of too many energies, too many things, where you don't understand that you are now losing focus of what is most important, and what you need to really decide for yourself, that if they were to fall off a cliff, who would you hold on to? Who would you lose your arm for to make sure that they would never ever fall? And so you have to think about your innermost core as that critical point, because if you have not defined that, that is probably why you're having issues in your relationship, because you're being pushed and pulled, and you not just understanding the very definition of that core. So I'm going into the second layer, which is the secondary. Think about this like an avocado, right? This is the pulp, the meat, the part that you really feel like gives you sustenance, okay? Gives you sustenance. And understand that, again, people may say, oh, that's my family. They don't have to be blood related. They could possibly be, and that's great. This could be your mom or your dad or your grandma that you rely on. But you have to also ask yourself, If you are holding on, you're you're at the edge of a mountain and you're holding on to your dear one who's falling off a cliff, and you're like, look, I've got you, you're not falling, okay? That secondary layer is the one holding on to your feet. They're the ones that are saying, look, I'm right here, I'm not going anywhere, we're doing this together. And it may be that you run into a situation in life where you're not making the best decisions, but they're also going to be the one that says, look, you can take it or leave it. Here's my opinion about this moment, okay? This is what I think you should do. But regardless of what I think, I'm going to support whatever decision you make. They are not going to be the ones causing division, causing drama, causing a rift in your family or your innermost core, where they will try to make it crumble or break apart. If you're thinking that there's people in your innermost circle, your core, or your secondary layer that you're allowing to be in that, and you're calling them your core or your secondary layer, you've really got to think that twice. Okay, because what all it is someone who is now just poking holes. Okay, poking holes or cutting things apart, and just kind of waiting to see if it is going to break apart or fall apart. And then they're going to be there when then all of a sudden you're sad and you're broken and you need somebody, because they want to be that hero to go, girl, I told you. You should have never stayed with him. But then they were the ones who actually caused the problem. Or, you know what, you shouldn't be doing this with your children, and giving you advice where they don't even have children, or their children have not even gotten to a point of any type of level of respect or success level. And so, sometimes we get so desperate to want to hear what other people have to say, and because we think they care about us, and maybe we're not hearing anybody else because our heart is hurting or our mind is consumed with many thoughts, that because we trust people in what you thought was your secondary or your innermost core, and that they've always been down with you and they've always been here for you, that you're going to take their advice, and yet they have caused a division, or they have caused you to pull away from those you truly love or who truly love you. You have got to consider that as you reflect. Take a moment to go, what has this person done for me lately? There's a Janet Jackson moment, right? I mean, really think about that, right? Just think about, what is this person doing that's keeping my innermost core together? Are they helping me to keep that together? Or are they doing things to just really, truly break it apart? And when things start to break apart, then they want to be that hero, seemingly trying to bring it back together, when they actually created the brokenness, or the seemingly, the momentarily, the parts where things seem to momentarily be falling apart. Think about that, because when a person hasn't had any self-fulfillment, they're going to jump at every moment that they can to be a superhero. In their mind, they think they are. And you may have given them that thought that they are, because all of a sudden you've kept them and you've allowed them. And you're the one who's carrying all of that brokenness. And all of a sudden, you don't even realize that they were the cause of that. Be wary of those that you're allowing into your secondary layer, because really, I don't even want to say that they're your outer circle, because that's my third layer. Your outer circle are the ones that, for some reason, they're around. You've kept them around because they've never done me wrong. They haven't really done anything for me, but I also know that they haven't judged me to a point where I've felt that they were trying to cause division in what I consider to be most important. So these are people that respect you for who you are, and they're just they could be your church members, right? They could be people you work with that just may here and there know about your life, but they've never done anything to create any type of rift. They are very politically correct. They're the ones that essentially will listen to you and not necessarily have anything to give you anything in return. And you respect that, and they respect you. So these are your outer circle people that are like the lining of your fruit, that you just know know that if someone was to say something bad about you, they'll just be like, hey, you know, I've never heard anything bad about that person, and so I don't really have anything to say back, right? They're not going to badmouth you. They're not going to talk behind your back or cause any type of, you know, rumors or anything of that matter to cause any to contribute to any of the drama that could arise if they had said something, or if someone was trying to instigate or initiate a conversation that would lead to some form of darkness. They would be somewhat the neutral light to say, I have nothing to contribute to that. You know, I haven't heard, I don't think anything bad of them. You know, they somehow back you up by just being indifferent. And so that is your outer circle. So let's go back, because then I'm going to go to my fourth layer, and really, which is outside of your circle. Think about your innermost core, okay? And really define that. Because if you are heavy in the heart right now and thinking to yourself that you have, you know, you feel that everybody in your core is not getting along, who is causing that? Who is causing that type of worry in your heart, that, you know, that baggage in you, where you feel like you have to carry that, and because you're carrying it, all of a sudden it's taking away from those who are so innocently depending on you, or that so innocently need you, or haven't done really anything to hurt you, and yet you are hurting them indirectly or directly, because all of a sudden you're tending to someone else that may not even need to be in your innermost circle, and yet you think that they need to be, okay? Because somehow they've made you feel guilty, thinking, oh, this is tradition, this is how we are, shame on you for not, you know, thinking of me. You know, here's the deal, people are adults, okay? And they, if anyone is trying to make you feel guilty for focusing on who you love and who needs you, shame on them, right? Shame on them. And so again, your innermost circle, define it. Define the ones that you would be losing your arm for, and you know are counting on you, because you know that they haven't done anything wrong, and they're just depending on you to water them, to give them sunshine, to give them, you know, some light, and really help them grow with you, so that you can do things together in the best way possible in life. And then there's your secondary layer, where you know that they're going to be holding on to your feet and not letting you go, as you're holding on to your dear loved ones that are in your innermost circle, and will not give you judgment, but will be there for you, and will be there as an ear to listen when you need someone to listen, and yet will empower you rather than try to break you apart or break your core apart or do anything to cause any troubles or problems in your innermost circle. Now you have the outer circle. Again, as I mentioned, that these are the people who are going to be indifferent in your life. They are part of your life because they haven't done any wrong. They are just the politically correct. They know of you, and yet they haven't done anything to try and cause any division in your family or those that mean most to you. They're the ones that just give you respect and saying, hey, you know what, everyone has problems. You know, they're the good people. They're the ones who don't want to bring any darkness into anything. Those are good to have, because even though it's not as if, you know, they're going to be running to your door when you need them most, you at least know they're not going to be trying to take you down when your back is turned away. So think about those people that just respect your space and you respect their space. That's your outer circle. It's just kind of holding that in, right? The pulp and the core in, because they are just on the outside of it, and then just making sure that no one is trying to cause any darkness in. And, you know, by just being indifferent and in saying nothing wrong or no judgment on your behalf or your family's behalf, or whatever your core is that you've defined. Now, outside of the circle is where I'm going to stop at. Outside of the circle are, of course, those who have no value. And they may at first have started in your core. And eventually you realize, and you give people time. I would tell my children, you know, sometimes you just allow people to be who they are, right? Because as you process, I mean, have some good wisdom in you to know that you can listen in on what people say and how they behave, how they react to situations. Because then that gut feeling, when you have that intuition, you need to go, okay, I see how they are, then you know then if you can trust them. So if they are the ones that act like, hey, I'm here for you, and yet they're the ones that are telling you what your heart's telling you is wrong, then you know that they are trouble. Okay, and these are the ones that have a darkness in them. They're the hole punchers on your boat. Now, of course, your outer circle, the third layer, could be the ones on the boat just coasting with you. Okay, oh, that's a nice boat, man. Okay, that's nice. They may not even be paddling with you, right? As my husband would say. It's a great analogy that he has on about teamwork and a boat. But really, those outside of the circle are the ones who like somehow find their way in. They're always trying to get on your boat. But as soon as they get in, not only are they causing weight, but they are poking holes. And you're like, hold on. Why are you poking holes? I'm not poking any holes. And as soon as you turn away again, they're poking another hole, right? And not only that, but they're telling everybody else on the boat to poke holes as well. And then all of a sudden, they're creating that type of energy and they have that kind of vibe in them that think they're doing anything good. But they are nothing but the opposite of that. And here you are now consumed with their presence, and you are watching their every move. You're trying to make, you're trying to make wrong right, and it should not have even been your issue. You're having to resolve a situation that someone caused within your core, within your circle, because you let someone in. And that's a hard thing to say, because most of the time they could have been your best friend back, way back from the beginning, and yet you two just grew out of each other's ways. Like, they were doing the fun things that you were doing 20 years ago. And yet they're still doing those fun things 20 years ago that you're so glad to have left behind. They could have been those people, or your friends or family members that were in that type of lifestyle or that type of, situation you were in that you are so glad to be out of now. And yet they make you feel guilty every time you're trying to move forward. They keep trying to bring you back, making you think that you've got to, be still down with that. And it's like, no. Why don't you be up with me? Okay? Why don't you be in my light? There are just some people that, because they've never had that fulfillment in their life, or that they're too afraid, or that they don't know or have any self-belief that they could arise to the level that you are climbing to, that they would rather pull you down. And again, these are the ones that will act like they're trying to help you. And they will say it, I'm just trying to help. How are you helping? By creating a division, by creating darkness, by creating lies. And they may not think they're lying, but let's just call it fibbing or exaggerating the truth, right? And in their mind, they have convinced themselves that they are helping, because they think they are great helpers. And in fact, they are so broken, they only know how to destroy. A person who is broken does not know how to mend, because they are broken themselves. How can anyone know how to mend if they don't even know how to fix themselves? And so the only thing they know how to do is be destructive. And when you're around that type, it becomes something that is infectious. All of a sudden, you're having to deal with their problems. You're having to deal with their attitude. You're having to deal with their issues that they're bringing in. All of a sudden, what may be not a big deal, they're making it a big deal. That's what they're good at. They're good at breaking things. They're good at creating separation. They're good at thinking something's wrong when everything could be fine, because they've never understood challenges. They've never understood struggle. As soon as they run into challenges or struggles, they quit, or they run away. They make excuses. And then all of a sudden, they haven't attained to any level of respect or dignity. And so that's all they know. And it's not, you don't hate them. Hate's such a strong, affection for anyone, right? That's the opposite of love. You just keep your distance from those people outside of your circle. You just kind of go, okay, I know that this person is only going to bring something that is of darkness into what I'm trying to create here. And so you have to be mindful of those people. You don't have to be mean unless you're brought into that position where you have to be very, protective of your circle. And if they're trying to get in, that's when you have to I don't want to say that's when you have to be firm and saying, okay, enough is enough. I have to focus on what's important here. And then understand that those in your circle may step out for a second, but trust that they're going to come back in once the truth prevails, once things work out, once they start to see and understand the whole picture. Because sometimes things can get muddy and things can be tested, and so there's that going to be that push and pull factor. But this is why it's so important to identify who your innermost core is, who your secondary layer are or is. Could be one or two people. Do not think you need a lot. And then you have your outer circle, those who are going to just say nothing bad about you, okay, not contribute to any drama. They're just going to be the ones that will never ever budge to be those people outside of the circle trying to get in and cause trouble. Those are the ones that you'll need, because they're the ones that kind of put out the fire when there are people trying to cause problems or create drama or create, rumors and lies and so forth. Again, please take the time to make a list, if you haven't already, of who are in your circle, and be true to your word. Don't owe anyone an apology for making that decision, because everyone who loves you and cares for you will never do anything to damage you. Even if they say they're trying to help you and they're not. In your heart, they're not. In your spirit, they're not. Be wise, because at the end of the day, your innermost circle is what you have to care for. And if you start to see that that's starting to get broken up a bit, it's time to rethink. It's time to go, okay, I've got to recover. I've got to bring it back. I've got to bring it back. And just have faith that everything will work out and the truth will prevail. Because at the end of it, if you are true to yourself, if you know that you are still staying in the light and you are working to make sure that you maintain that, everything will just work out. But you have to know how to keep those people in that are good for you, and then how to keep those people out who are doing nothing good for you. So in the words of my mother, God bless us all, I really want you to think about defining your circle, because I am seeing, as an educator, as a parent, as a wife, too many out there who are starting to fall apart or break apart because they don't know who to turn to. And those that they're allowing into their lives are actually the ones who are causing destruction. And, don't be mad at them. Give everyone forgiveness. It is in their spirit to not know better. And usually when people are in a vulnerable state, they're the ones under most attack of such darkness, and then they will try to bring that onto you. Give yourself the fault for allowing that, because if you are saying to yourself, oh, I need them in my life, then that's you. That was your decision. You cannot sit there and say that it's anyone else's fault when you've had the power to make that decision on who you're going to let in and who you're going to keep out. Okay? So create that protection. Protect those who matter most and who are really the most important, because at the end of the day, you should feel no guilt for doing the best you can at love. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you next time.